Sorry, I haven't got it yet.
Nikhil, just one moment. She's trying to do it because there is some technical glitch. 1 moment. Nikhil, can you try once again, please?
Now it is showing. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me share my screen. Yeah.
Yes, now I can see your screen.
Can you see the full screen?
All right, Nazni. Yeah. Yes, Nikhil, I can. Nazni, can you please start the recording now?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. This is Brajesh, and I'll be hosting this session for you all today. So I'll start the session with a small introduction about Techcanvass. So Techcanvass is an IT certification training organization for mid-level professionals. So being an authorized training center for IIBA Canada and ISQA Germany, we are authorized to conduct the certification courses like ECBA, which is an entry certification in business analyst, CCBA, which is a level 2 certification in business analyst given by IIBA, and CBAB, which is the highest level of certification given by IIBA in business analyst. We also train aspirants for Agile Analysis certification and CBDA, which is a certification in business data analytics given by IIBA again. We also provide multiple domain-specific trainings on banking, finance, healthcare, and insurance. All right, now I would introduce you all to our today's speaker also, Mr. Nikhil Sharma. So Nikhil is a telecom consultant with 14 years of experience in various business transformation projects across Middle East, South Africa, Canada, and UK. Currently, he is associated with Netcracker Technology, which is in Bangalore, for last 5 years. In his professional career, he has done multiple hats as business designer, business analyst, pre-sales consultant, and project manager. He is also a TOGAP 9.1 certified professional. All right. So now I would request Nikhil to begin the session. Thanks everyone and good luck.
Okay, thank you, Brajesh, for introduction. So let's get started. So good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining the session today. Today we will walk through, as the agenda says, I will walk through the domain, telecom domain overview, and I will try to introduce certain terms or certain terminologies which are frequently used uh, in the telecom world. I hope I am audible. Yeah. And
Yes, Nikhil.
thank you. And we will also see in this session evolution of telecom from the OSS BSS perspective. Now, as you all will be aware that any domain is a huge, and there are multiple facets or the aspects of the domain which we cannot cover in the single session. So I have, for the context purpose, I have limited the scope with respect to OSS and BSS. Now, what is OSS and BSS? I will introduce in the subsequent slides. Then we will see the typical telecom customer journey. Uh, these days, customer journey and customer experience is a very catchy term, right? Every operator and every service provider is trying to achieve certain aspects, certain benchmarks. So we will see what a typical customer's journey and how does it look like from domain perspective. Then I will cover operators' challenges and opportunities. So every challenge brings some opportunities, right? And in this time, in the current world, all the operators are stressed out because customer wants more. What operator have devised and invented few years back do not work today, right? Customer has advanced. Customer has different needs. So telecom operators needs to invent and bring innovation together. So we will see typical challenges and what are the opportunities lying ahead. Then I will show and highlight TM Forum standards. So this is a very prominent standard or standard body which is being used or which is a foundation for a telecom domain. I will walk you through how does it help from the operator perspective, and how does it add value, and from the end objective, which is customer satisfaction and customer delight. And last but not the least is a typical day of a business analyst in a telecom project. So as I understand, the audience today has a beginner or maybe have a novice understanding of this domain. So anybody of you planning to build a career in this domain, then it will give you a glimpse of how does the life looks like and what are the typical responsibilities of the business analyst or a solution architect do in the project. Yeah. Okay, so let's get started. We'll go to the next slide. So now if I have to divide the telecom domain or give the overview, from my perspective, I could do this in the 7 aspects, right? So the telecom domain, the very first thing which starts with is a strategy. Every operator has a certain team or KPIs to build a strategy which will help them bringing new revenue streams, right? So as I said, every operator is trying to build up and ramp up on the innovation side. So there is a specific team who will work on the marketing and research, right? So we will see marketing and research. Now, when I'm saying strategy, marketing, and research, that means there will be a dedicated system in telecom which is responsible and which drives the functionality, right? And there will be a team. So anyone who likes to build the competency in this area, then this is a overview. Then the second part is once strategy in place, the operators have to build the infrastructure and the core network, right? So they have to invest money on the infrastructure and the network services, and it's a huge area, and we are not going to cover this in a detail today, but yeah, but this is a very important segments, and it is very complex these days on the infrastructure part. Then the third one is, once the infrastructure strategy is in place, there is a product lifecycle management. So the strategy, the output of the strategy is what? Output of the strategy is the new product, right? So there will be a new product which will be conceptualized. There will be a new product which needs to be launched into the market. So it is a full cycle where the new products goes from the conceptualization phase to delivery phase. And that's a huge area again, and there's a dedicated team who works on these aspect. And from the system perspective also, there will be a system involved which will govern this functionality. The next one is a customer acquisition and sales and order, right? So once all three are in place, so the next step is to acquire customer, to sell customer, because that is the bread and butter for operator. So there will be a processes, there is a system, sales management, order management, depending on the customer segment, which we'll see in the subsequent slides. There will be a process and system associated with that. Once customer is acquired well in the system, customer is onboarded, then it involves typical services, right? Customer will have a lot of issues or might have a lot of issues, or customer may have some need based on what he require, right? So operators needs to invest system, operator needs to invest team to take care of that, right? Otherwise, customer may go away, right? So this is a typical services and operation stream, which is customer service assurance and problem management. Also value-added services or any new requirement from the customer once it is onboarded. The next one is customer billing and revenue assurance. So when customer is onboarded well, customer is in life, then at the end of the bill cycle, there will be a bills or invoices, right? Depending on whether customer is postpaid. And there is a dedicated system called billing and revenue management, and also the revenue assurance part where they have to comply with certain regulations. And last but not the least is customer retention and churn management. So once customer is not happy with what he's getting along with operator, then there will be process involved of a separation, right? So these days, as you might all aware, that it's an open market, right? So nobody does tolerate the problems or the complaints for a long time. So operators are also sensitized on those aspects, and in general, they have a very specific team who works on these cases. So the moment you request for a port out, retention team gets alert, right? And also the churn management. So it is also about the predictive and reactive, right? So for example, if customer is disconnecting or customer network is outage is very frequent, then it is an indication for operators to it is an indication for operators to understand that this customer may left very soon, and so they have to either tidy up their services or they have to incentivize the customer, right? So overall, customer experience is the key. All these aspects, if the customer experience is not good, none of this will work. Right. So from the domain perspective, I think these are the few areas which I will cover today, or which we have listed here. And if you have any questions, I think we can take this up later, or maybe you can put in a chat. Okay. So let's go to the next one. So customer segment and business model. I'll try to define certain terminologies here. The terminology is B2B, which is a business to business. So when I'm saying operator, I am referring to the companies like Airtel, Jio, Vodafone, right? These are called operators in the telecom world. And business to business means these operators are selling services to the end organizations, right? So for example, Airtel is selling services to Google, and Google may in turn Google may in turn sell or provide these services to their employees or whatsoever. So this is called a business to business, B2B. There is a very specific systems and the processes involved for this, and it is a part of one of the transformation project, right? Then another terminology is B2C, which is a business to consumer. So this is us, individual consumer, who may be interested in prepaid, postpaid, and other services. So this is called as a B2C. And the third one, if I could classify, is B2B to X, right? So this is nothing but business to business. And X here means either it is end customer, which is corporate, or it could be end customer, which is who is individuals, right? So this is a typical model for the partners or the resellers, where the typical big organization take the services from Airtel or Vodafone, and then they in turn sell to their end customers, right? Now, there could be a different ways of selling it. They could be called as partners. They could be called as resellers. They could be called as distributors. So either they use their own branding. In this case, the end customer is just having the interaction with the other organization, right? So just taking an example for the clarity is, let's assume Airtel is selling the services to Cisco, and Cisco in turn is selling these services to other corporates or certain individuals or their own consumers, right? So there could be possible that they will have their own logo, they will generate their own bill. So there are different models where these transformation projects or the domain could be categorized, right? So for example, I'm working in a transformation project, and I have worked on B2B, B2C, and B2B to X. And in general, all have their own complexities, all they have their own challenges. But yeah, and every operator is working in these aspects or the domains. Okay, I hope it is clear. Okay, so if we can further divide this into a micro level, then I will try to define this as a MNO, which is a mobile network operator, and MVNO, which is a mobile virtual network operators. So mobile network operators are the organizations who is building their own infrastructure. They are buying their own spectrum. They are investing on their own networks and services. So it is a full-fledged mobile operators, right? Like Jio or Airtel, and in other countries could be Telefonica or T-Mobile. Now, what happened was that initially, when this telecom world boomed, right, and was on the when they were defining their services or they're defining or selling, then the environment or the market became very non-competitive, because not everybody or not every operator will have huge capital investment to do that in upfront, right? So even if they have good value proposition or certain organization, they were not able to compete because they did not have the capital to invest and build a network, right? So what happened was that mobile body or the telecom body has brought the concept of mobile virtual network operator. Now, what they do is that they leverage the infrastructure which is already built by these operators, right? So what happened is they take certain part of the network, right, and they build their own product and services for the end customers. Now, the advantage with that is, from the operator's perspective, network operator's perspective, is that they are getting another revenue stream, right? They have already certain customer base, and even with that, with the kind of investment in infrastructure, they will have a certain unused capacity. which they lease to these other operators called as MVNOs. And these MVNOs, now MVNO also have a certain other category like thick, thin, hybrid, which we'll not cover today. But in general, they lease the infrastructure from these operators, and they build their own products and services. Now, at the end of the day, they both are competing to get the customers, right? So if you see, both MNO and MVNO are competing in the telecom world, right? And these people, what they do is, these organizations, uh, they build exciting products and services, right? So the customer has a choice. Now, the customer who is connected to MVNO even may not know that the infrastructure is being used by the operators or the MNO, right? So from the customer perspective, it is a good situation where they can go to the other operators. From the virtual network operator perspective, it is a good situation where they don't need a capital investment and they can compete. Now the examples, I see some question on MVNO. MVNO examples are in the UK world, it's GiveGaff, Leica. Uh, in the different worlds, like if you have seen in US or UK, there are different operators which are working as MVNO, right? Uh, they provide the services like Mobile, GiveGaff, Tesco. They all are building the services from Telecom, which is Telefonica operator, and they are selling to the end customers. Now, I think in India, I don't remember exactly, but I think there was one company who was working as MVNO. But right now, as you all aware, it is a three companies game, right? Airtel, Jio, and Vodafone. And Vodafone is struggling in big time to match to the innovation which Jio and Airtel are bringing. Right. So I hope it is clear that customer can go to MVNO, customer can go to MNO. They don't realize whose infrastructure is. They don't bother about it, as long as they are getting the services and the products. So they're good, right? The bills could be generated directly by the MVNOs. They have their own customer service. So from that angle, I think they get few more options. Okay. Um, Moving on. Uh, if I have to drill down into the product and services family, this is a pretty standard product and services uh, 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 options which every telecom operator in general provide. One is a prepaid, another is postpaid, hybrid, fixed lines and broadband, TV, and M2M and IoT. Now, prepaid is there are no liabilities. You just go and buy a SIM. You may have certain basic authentication. You need to give your identity proof, and then you're done, right? In some countries, even identification is not required. You are always seen as anonymous because of the local regulations and rules. So you just go, pay, and buy a SIM and use it. Uh, Postpaid is a little complex, where you are paying at the end of the bill cycle, right? So when you get the bill, now not everybody can purchase a postpaid connection, because in the sense that you have to go through the credit check. So operators just need to ensure that you will not be a bad customer in terms of the defaults and the bills, right? So every operator has integration, if I could use that terminology, with a central system called credit check. In various countries, it is Experian, or yeah. So every country and every geography has a um, centralized credit check system, which is shared by different operators, so that they check the credit worthiness of the customers, right? It is similar to what we have in the bank's credit score. Hybrid is the another model, where the services and the offerings is a combination of prepaid and postpaid. So in the sense that maybe just to give an example, you will use 1 GB of data and 100 or the 1,000 minutes of voice call. as a postpaid. So you don't need to pay because your company is paying it. But once this limit is crossed, it is you who has to bring that and pay, right? So this is a typical corporate consumer model, and yeah, this is how it is used in a different geographies and a different journey. Then it comes fixed line and broadband. So like typical landline and broadband TV, as you all know, and M2M and IoT. So what is M2M and IoT? M2M is machine to machine and Internet of Things. So for example, the big organizations have a telemetry or the fleet of vehicles, and they want to track the usage and the direction or the location of individuals' trucks or the vehicles. So they buy a SIM, and from the centralized place, they can observe and monitor the movement, the usage, etc., etc. So it's a very huge and exciting world where different operators are competing. So depending on the customer need, depending on the customer eligibility, why I'm saying eligibility, because for postpaid you need to have a credit score. For fixed line, operators need to have the presence in your area, right? So based on the customer need, these operators do these checks before providing services to the end customer. Yeah, I think I just remember and recall Tata Docomo, right? In Tata Docomo was kind of an MVNO who didn't build his own infrastructure, and piggybacked on already operator, which operator I don't remember. But yeah, Tata Docomo is an example of MVNO. I think it's no more valid in India now. Okay, let's define now. Next slide is operation system, support systems, and the business support system. So this is a very, very important terminologies. So operation support system. Now every telecom, now this is uh, every telecom operator will have operation support systems and the business support systems. What is operation support systems? Operation is the infrastructure, networks, uh, where they can do the planning for the network, the kind of a bandwidth which each customers require. So it is more of a network part, right? So once the customer is onboarded, how we are going to serve the customers in the current bandwidth or the capacity. And the business support system is nothing but the CRM and order management, right? So once the customer needs to be acquired, there are different systems, which is like billing and CRM. So any typical telecom transformation projects, to put it precise, OSS and BSS transformation projects, uh, there are different COTS products like Siebel, NetTracker, Oracle, Salesforce. They all have these modules or the components in the system to drive these per processes. Okay, so yeah, so let's see what it consists of, right, in a little detail. So telecom OSS BSS systems, if I say BSS, it's a northbound systems of processes from the integration perspective. So it consists of customer relationship management, order management, billing, and the product catalog. So product catalog is nothing but the offering and the services. The billing is the revenue assurance part. Order management is taking the orders and fulfilling over the network. And the CRM is providing the 360 view of the customers. Yeah. Then in the operation support system, it is the network activation, inventory, fault assurance, and the service and resource management. So it is about the routers which needs to be installed if the customer is a broadband customer, right? If it is a landline customers, then there are certain inventories which needs to be taken care in the network, in the provisioning perspective. So broadly, if we need to categorize broadly, this is the division between OSS and BSS. These OSS and BSS demand a different skill set from the BAs or the solution designers, because it's a huge domain or the subdomains under telecom, right? So uh, generally the architects who are not end-to-end, they either are expert on BSS part or on the OSS part, right? And the end-to-end ones are generally rare. But yeah, if someone has the competency in both, then it's an asset. Okay. And from the operator's perspective, every telecom operator are going into the transformation, and they are mm, going through uh, the upgrades. They are going through the different journeys to change these systems, right? So uh, let's assume that there is an operator A who has 10 years or 15 years of the old system. Now, if they have to upgrade this, either they do a BSS upgrade or OSS upgrade. So in a typical transformation projects, either it is a BSS transformation or it is a OSS transformation, and some projects are includes both, and it is a like huge projects to change their legacy in the, to define the terminologies, their current systems which are uh, obsolete, which do not cater for the current needs of the end customers, which are the system which are not innovative enough, system which are not agile enough, right? So every operator has gone through this journey. Some operators have already completed, some operators are already in the process. And just to emphasize, this is not a simple task, right? Because these business transformation projects completely change the way processes and the systems are built. So any business transformation project is not also about the systems, it is about the culture, because the way the things works currently may not work tomorrow, right? Their job description and the job roles also gets redefined once these transformation projects goes live. So it is kind of very strongly dependent on people, process, and technology. Technology alone or upgrade alone will not help uh, these transformations. So it has to be combination of all the aspects, human aspects as well. Okay, so if we can consider the evolution of the telecom from OSS BSS perspective, uh, I would classify into the three aspects. One is fragmented and complex systems in the legacy. We can call this as a siloed processes. It's a typical term which is used. The silo means the one system is not speaking to another system, right? So your billing system do not know what is there in the CRM and vice versa. So the typical example is you call a call center and you speak and you take a pain to introduce you and talk about your problems and uh, give your information. Once the call is transferred, because the CSR or the customer service representative could not solve this problem, and this call is transferred to another department, you start from again, right? It's very frustrating for the end customers. So because these processes are very siloed and they're not talking to each other. Now it has been, or it is being changed to modernize system with the agile processes. Now when I'm saying modernized systems, we are completely killing silos. If I have a customer and if I have 5 systems, all the systems should know whatever they need to know, right? So that customer don't need to repeat it. Also we have a single view of the customer, right? Then the second comes is a lack of single view customer, which I just described, correct? So for example, typical example for these aspect of evolution is uh, uh, if I have a prepaid, if I have a postpaid, if I have a landline offerings, right? Uh, the operator has created me thrice, right? Operator do not know that I am the owner of these services. Now this puts them into a disadvantage, because first of all, they don't understand their end customer well. They won't be able to innovate well, because they are not aware of the end customer. And also from the customer perspective, it is very frustrating. Maybe you have to say that I'm the owner of 3 offerings and the services. I have a prepaid, I have a postpaid, I have a landline, without they knowing, understanding it. So all the business transformation projects typically are moving from fragmented, lack of single view, to the customer 360 view. Now the customer 360 view is what? Customer 360 means you know in and out about the customers, or the operators. When I'm saying you, means operator. So operator knows uh, Operator knows about what are the marketings or the campaigns which has been sent to the customers, right? Operator knows about all the complaints and the services which this customer has raised in in the past, right? Operator knows about your current pain points. Your network connection is dropping very frequently, right? Your internet connection is very dicey, and every now and then you have to raise a request, right? uh, you have an issue with the TV. So the customer 360 view means you have the single view of the customer. So the customer service representative or the call center say or see the single view of the customer where all the aspects of the offerings or the services are displayed. Then the stringent and the high time to market for the product and services. So gone are the days where these uh, operators were going live or bringing new product and services in years. Now customers are very advanced. They know that the cloud technologies have come, so they are demanding the rollout in the weeks, right? So there has to be some agility. There has to be some processes which can support these times and other aspects. Yep. So I don't think that all these three aspects fully cover the evolution, but from the OSS BSS perspective, these are the top three if I have to list down. What has changed from 20 years old to now, right? I'm working in a one transformation project where the operators or the end organization has not changed their systems 20 years, and now they're struggling because they cannot innovate. Their legacy systems do not support it, or even if they support it, the investment cost is huge, so it is not sustainable. So these operators have no choice but to innovate and keep up a pace with the time, right? So yeah, these are the top three areas or the aspects where the evolution has happened. Now, if you have heard of 5G, right? 5G also fits into one of these aspects, right? So 5G is going to inculcate or bring the innovation in terms of the high bandwidth, high internet usage. Uh, every customer and customers is using video like never been before, right? So operators needs to innovate and they have to bring new technologies. Okay, moving on. Uh, the telecom customer journey. So typical the customer journey for the customers is like, I'll start with uh, mm, I discover, right? So I discover, I buy, I join, I manage, I am supported, I connect, I stay, and I leave. Now, if you observe one thing, everything it is about the customer, right? So these days, the customer journey is not about what operators will do, right? It is all about how we can empower customers so that uh, customers uh, are very satisfied with the different touch points, right? Mm, in the telecom world, there are different call centers, right? And the benchmark of the customer satisfaction is that they should never have the need to call a call center, right? So this is what is the benchmark of a good service. Similarly in the banks, excuse me. So similarly in the banks, right? If you have to visit a bank, that means somewhere something is not correct, right? Why the customer or the operator or the banks have not provided something at your hand, which could have done without you physically getting moved into the offices, right? So it is all about empowering customers. So I discover in the sense how the telecom products and the services are exposed to the end customers so that they can see and discover about the new offerings like campaigns, mobile advertisements, right? And how quickly they understand it, right? So if the end customer has to call a call center, to understand that what are the packages, then it is not a good part, right? It is not a good experience. I always take an example of Apple. Things have to be very specific and simple so that end customers are empowered and they don't waste time calling and going through and fro, right? So then the second is I buy. So there are different channels like e-commerce, the portals, right? Apps. So these days the world is telecom, or sorry, mobile first, right? So every operator, when they are launching their services, most of the time they are focused on the mobile or the cell service. So I buy refers here that how the telecom systems and processes are built so that customer can buy the services or the products without even calling the call center. Right? So it's a frictionless. Uh, the process, right? I join, then how customer is onboarded, uh, how customer is onboarded into the products, into the system, right? So what are the how the customer experiences whenever they are joining, right? So as we see, it has to be frictionless. I manage. So are you empowering customers? So are you, or the telecom operators are empowering customers so that they don't need to call and then everything has to be self-service? They are building the communities. And how systems or the customers are supported, right? What is the service level agreement when you raise an issue, within what timelines it is being sorted? Uh, then I connect. So when you are connected, then that means you are happy and you're using the services. Uh, I stay means I stay means what is the tenure of the customer, right? What is the value proposition? Is customer happy? Is there any churn propensity? So churn propensity means how likely that customer is supposed to be disconnected within few years or within few months. Our operators know about it, and whether customer is empowered to use these services. And then I leave. I leave means it's a retention part, right? So as I mentioned in the previous slides, it is all about when the customer left, or when the customer decide that he's not happy with the services, then the operators make an effort, right? Either by giving some incentives or by promising some good SLAs. So it is all about the customer empowerment, and it is all about the customer journey. And then once this customer journey is defined, the different customer experience factors are defined at all these touch points. I would say these touch points because this is where the customer may interact with an operator or already interacting with an operator in a virtual mode through the self-service. And then the telecom systems will have these systems to support these all journeys, right? So discovery is about launching the product lifecycle management on the products. I buy means sales. I buy and join means excuse me, sales part. Manage services part. Supported is complaints resolutions. Connect means service activation. Stay, how you're managing SLAs. And then leave is about retention and separation. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. The typical operator challenges. So currently the different transformation projects which are going on, these are the challenges not only from the operator side, but even from the implementer sides, right? Because it brings additional level of complexities. Now, every challenge with some brings some opportunity in one or another way, right? So GDPR, General Data Protection Rules, it is a very prominent rule in the European Union, UK, where you cannot access data outside the location, right? So that means the operators needs to build these frameworks and rules in such a way that they are compliant, because there are huge penalty. If you remember, or if you have heard of, Google has paid huge penalty in Germany a few years back because they did not comply with certain legal regulations there. So other than the OSS BSS, these operators needs to bring and build the systems which will support these legal regulations. Complex customized legacy. So we saw the siloed legacy systems. So for every functionality, they have implemented one system, right? So one system is built to comply one functionality, which does not align with typical distributed architecture, right? It doesn't correlate. So whenever we as a business analyst or architect goes to transform their systems, then we have to uh, understand the complexities which they bring from the legacy, because it is not simple lift and shift. It is also about optimization. If you just bring or lift or pull the implementation from one stack to another stack, the end objective is not met. Agility and transformation speed. So gone are the days, as I mentioned, go live is happening in years. Salesforce is doing production rollout within weeks. So it is all about out of the box functionalities and asking customers to adhere to that, which do not happen always, because every customer has a very specific need. The next one is a competition from OTT and internet service providers. So this is a huge one, where Google, Facebook, WhatsApp, other OTT providers, Skype, Microsoft, they are giving huge competition to the customer, to the operators, and their revenue is getting lost. So they have to innovate enough so that they can compete with these service providers or OTTs. And the last one from my perspective is on-premises to cloud transformation. So cloud is a very prevalent term these days, where every operators wants to move into the cloud. Cloud brings certain advantages, but cloud is also not one fit for all, right? So these operators needs to assess it well, that how these transformation will work for them, right? So for example, the GDPR aspect, right? So if they move into cloud, where is the data center like? Is it in the same location? Is it mapping or aligning with the legal regulations or not? So there are typical different models of public, private, hybrid, etc., which operators align with them, and then they transform it. So yeah, I mean, from my perspective, these are the typical high-level challenges which these telecom operators are currently going through. And what it brings in opportunities for people like us who are working in products, who are working on the service integrations. So these challenges are bringing or uh, developing the need for the transformation, which means new projects, new area of work, right? So, and also the operators are supposed to save a lot of cost once they move it, right? Because the way they used to work in legacy do not work in the new world, and it saves them a lot of money in terms of time to market and revenue leakage, stopping the revenue leakage. Okay, moving on. So I would like to introduce the TM Forum platform. So TM Forum is a very prominent term in telecom domain. So if any one of you have worked on this, I'm sure you would have heard it. It is a common platform, which is a alliance of 850 plus telecom operators. So what it does, it provides kind of a reusable standard frameworks for all telco operators, so that every time when they are implementing, they don't need to reinvent the wheel. What works for one operator may work for the another operator, right? What the pain point for one operator may be the pain point for other operators. So it provides a very good collaborative platform for operators to innovate together and bring the agility and build the systems for the new world. I have listed the websites. It is www.tmforum.org. If you'd like, you can visit this and get more information. Okay, moving on. So this is a very high-level overview of TM Forum framework. So it has a lot of aspects which I'm not covering today, but broadly it is like a business process framework, information framework, and application framework, right? So if any operator, this is a very good point. So if any operator wants to transform their legacy systems, they can use this framework to understand the standard business processes, right? So they can use to define a standard common terminology. So when they are launching RFPs, operators and the implementers are on the same page, right? So it defines the broad entities with respect to the data that any typical architects have to deal with. So one is requirement discovery and refinement. So everything is agile. So you go and discover the requirements, you write a user story along with business. Then you do the backlog planning. Then you do the prototyping, right? So the individuals need to use the systems called Azure, Figma, and other prototyping tools to demonstrate how the end application will look like, so that the end customers can visualize and give more requirements. Because from uh, business analysis perspective, it is the individual responsibility, not the business responsibility, to give all the requirements. Business never give them. And the best practices. So as you move up to the ladder and you have implemented these programs for the different operators, so you know what works and what are the different ways this is implemented, right? So not everything could be repeated, but yeah, you understand what are the different best practices and you suggest to the customer that this is how they should implement. In general, the business comes with the legacy mindset. So you have to bring them from the legacy to the new transformation mindset, and highlight them that what they could not visualize the problems, you need to highlight them and show them that this is how it should be done, this is how other operators are doing, um, and then take a call whether business agrees or not. And the last one, which I have specifically mentioned, is discover unset. Right? So depending on who your business is, uh, business do not understand most of the times what they need. Right? So even if they understand, they do not articulate it well. So as a business analyst or a solution architect or a telecom consultant, you have to extract those pain points, extract those requirements by empathizing, by understanding why they're doing what they're doing, what kind of problems they are facing. So it is a very collaborative process, but if you could discover what has not been formalized in RFPs and you gather during the workshops, then it's a good job done. And yeah, so overall, customer empathy and innovation are key for being effective as a BA or solution designer. So do not feel or do not think that customer is wrong, right? Sometimes we have BAs have an ego that customer don't understand it, right? So it needs to have the empathy for the customer, understand why they're coming from, where they're coming from, and why they need the specific requirement in a very specific way. The more you build this empathy, the better the relationship is with the business, and you work as a more effective way rather than being only efficient. Okay, I think that's it. So just to summarize today's webinar, I think we have seen the different aspects of the telecom domain. We have seen MNOs, MVNOs, we have seen OSS, BSS. We have seen the different systems and the processes, like the journey, right? We have seen the typical challenges and opportunities. We saw TM Forum is a standard body which helps these operators innovate and collaborate together, and the typical business analyst day, that what kind of responsibilities they have to play in a telecom world. Okay, with that, I think I'm done. And if anybody has any questions, you can, I believe, unmute and you can ask.
Hi, Nikhil.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Siddhant here. I just wanted to ask this question. Which is the most widely used technology in the telecom domain for both OSS and BSS, as you mentioned? Can you can you just name the top three?
So when you're saying technology, what do you mean? Can you just elaborate it little bit more?
You just mentioned that Salesforce is widely used, Siebel is widely used. So likewise, I'm asking
Okay, yeah.
for
So
both OSS and BSS.
sure. So I think OSS and BSS has different leaders and challenges in the market. So BSS, there is a Salesforce, Microsoft CRM, NetTracker, then Siebel. So Siebel is dying, right? Siebel is not it's not an emerging technology, but Siebel CRM in one of the times it used to be the leading CRM systems. So from the BSS side, these are not the technologies, I would say, but these are the implementers or the companies who are working in these areas in the BSS side. uh, Microsoft CRM, Salesforce CRM, as I mentioned, NetTracker CRM, uh, mm, mm, yeah, Pega, right? So Pega is also one of the leading, but I think they have a presence in few specific areas. So, and OSS side also there are huge. So OSS side again Convergys, which was acquired by NetTracker. Then we have Nokia. Then we have Concur. So Siddhant, I would suggest every year Gartner, brings or publish the magic quadrant in these areas, OSS and BSS, which qualify these operators or the companies into challengers, leaders, trailblazers, etc. So you should watch that space to get the updates every year. But yeah, overall on a high level, these are the companies who are, okay. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Another thing that I wish to ask is that means I'm actually an experienced business analyst, but I do not work in the telecom domain. So, if what will be the technical skills that will be required for a person to shift into the telecom domain? Like, what will be the technical aspect which will be how much weightage it will have for anyone who is hiring a business analyst? Because
Yeah,
I
so
myself am a functional business analyst. That's why
yeah,
my technical know-how is a bit less. That's why.
yeah, understood. So Siddhant, my answer to this question is these days, right? Nothing is functional, right? This is a
Yeah,
world
yeah.
where technology is booming. So if somebody is in the functional, I would suggest one should think about uh, moving into the techno-functional role at least, right? So the techno-functional means you don't need to code, correct? But you should have the expertise and the knowledge, at least in a way, so that you can argue and brainstorm with the developers that this is how it should work, right? So every
Okay.
telecom, every companies like Salesforce, NetTracker, Microsoft, they have their own products, right? So they have their own documentations. So if a business analyst understand that how these products work, right? So for example, I'll take an example of sales order, correct? So if somebody or any operator has to implement order for a B2C world, what are the business rules typical order management system requires, right? What are the typical data fields required? So I would say that kind of expertise is needed to move into the to move as a BA. I really believe there's nothing like functional these days now. Every company is expecting people to work as a techno functional at least, where you understand as you don't need to code. I am repeating myself, but yeah, you have to understand how things work at the micro level, right? So in general, TM Forum is a very good platform. If somebody wants to understand what is happening in the telecom world, I would suggest strongly logging into and creating a login. They have very lot of free resources, uh, and also it depends on what kind of a project you are moving, right? Whether it is a BSS or it is a OSS. So depending on that, you have to understand the core expertise. So now every project will have very specific functional modules, right? So I'm assuming you as a BA will work on one of the functional components like order management or the sales management, campaign management. So you need to understand the typical standard processes that industry is using. And in addition to that, one needs to understand the core, we call it as a OOB, out of the box, right? So as a BA, one need to promote OOB, and to understand OOB means you need to understand what your solution is offering in terms of the capability. Yeah, and
Okay.
nowadays the cloud is also coming up, right? But it is just picking up the pace. I believe that telecom is still lagging behind as compared to insurance or banking in the cloud space. But then cloud is I would say from the BA telecom BA perspective is an addition to the core skills. So my suggestion is to get the expertise in one of the functional components: sales management, order management, uh, campaign management. Understand where you want to move and then build those core expertise. But yeah, nothing like practical experience. So yeah, one should try to get and leverage the practical experience for these components.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Namrata has asked the question. Namrata, would you like to mute and unmute, sorry, and highlight?
Yeah, so I have a electronics and telecommunication background. My engineering degree is in electronics and telecommunication, and I work with a telecom company who provides ISP.
Okay.
So my role here is a techno-commercial role, not completely technical, not completely sales, but I want to switch to a BA role. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to understand: is there any certification or anything I should do for to switch myself or any?
So does your current organization provide you the opportunities to move into that role, or are you looking for the other organization?
I am looking for a switch.
Yeah, so it is a difficult bit. In general, if you want to change your role, in general, it's easier to do it in the current organization as compared to the new organization, because
Right.
any new organization requires some practical experience, right? And the hands-on experience, right? So I would suggest if you could try some way to move through this role into in the current organization. That is the best thing. That is one point. Second aspect is you need to understand the core skills of the BA, right? So IIBA has the good framework, but in general, BAs needs to have the curiosity and understanding from the business world, right? So even though the role is the techno-functional, one needs to understand what are the typical operator challenges, right? What is the current industry standard or the way it is going into the current world, right? What is the average revenue per user? What are the pain points? So in general, I would suggest if that is possible. Otherwise, I don't think there is one single certifications to gather that kind of expertise, but I have personally done TM Forum certification. But the TM Forum certification has a very specific application on the business process side where you're mapping the process, and it is little higher on the cost side. But it definitely provides some brownie points in your CV, right? If I could put that way. And the other thing is, I would suggest going through the Salesforce.com Trailblazer community, right? So they have Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud. Try to pick one of the cloud, and they have a lot of free resources in general there also. So you can acquire some understanding on that part.
Understood. I shall do that. Thank you. Thank you.
That was a very sweet thank you. Okay.
That's my nephew. Sorry for that.
No problem. Thank you. This was Arival. I just started a contractor billing analyst in Huge with the goal of getting hired on a. Thank you. I'm glad that it helped. Any other questions? Anybody? So if not, then thank you very much, everyone who took time on Saturday evening. IPL is going on, so you sacrifice some time if you're an IPL fan. And thank you very much for joining this webinar. Over to you, Azmi or Rajesh.
Yeah, Nikhil. I guess now we are good. All right. So thanks everyone. Thanks, Nikhil. So let's wind up here now.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you.
This conference is no longer being recorded.